of the virus, but criminality or reckless spending cannot be ascribed to the decision to undertake such measures. Mr. Speaker, you might remember that we could not produce Veronica buckets fast enough. Today, it is not an obligatory item on anyone's list of purchases. In dealing with the crisis generally, I did not meet anyone brave enough to suggest the considerations of money should be a hindrance to anything we needed to do in the fight against the virus. I was, and I am grateful that the people of Ghana rose to the occasion, and together we went through the crisis and came out well by defying the doomsday predictions about the inevitability of dead bodies on our streets. I'm grateful that we saw the wisdom in helping each other, and I thank those who contributed their expertise, time, and energy to the fight against the virus. And I thank those who contributed to the COVID-19 fund that was set up to help us meet some of the expenditures. The economic consequences from the pandemic have been devastating. Mr. Speaker, it is precisely because the economic fallout from the pandemic is so widespread and long-lasting that it is important to show clearly that the COVID-19 funds were not misused. It is critical that we do not lose the confidence of the people that a crisis that they were led to believe we were all in together was abused for personal gain. Mr. Speaker, it was government that asked for the COVID funds to be audited, and I can assure this House that nothing dishonorable was done with the COVID funds. The responses from the Ministers for Health and Finance on January 23rd and 25th, 2023, respectfully, have sufficiently laid to rest the queries from the Auditor General's report, and I believe any objective scrutiny of these statements from the Health and Finance Ministries would justify this conclusion. We did provide 518 million cedis of grants services benefited, of which 60% were women-owned. These were MSMEs and cedis made the difference between the ruin of the household and survival. In addition, 58,041 health workers were empowered to supplement the existing health sector workforce. Subsequently, all of them have been absorbed as permanent workers in the health sector. Frontline health workers were also granted 50% tax relief for the period. Was that something to regret? We should be ever grateful for the work that so many people did to keep all of us safe. All households enjoyed free water supply and huge discounts on electricity bills, because access to water was a necessity to ensure people adhere to hygiene practices, and access to electricity was important as everybody was encouraged to stay at home. It also provided an economic cushion to protect lives and livelihoods at a time of difficulty. Today, the government's support for utility bills is being projected by some as a waste, or to use that word so beloved of some commentators, profligate. Mr. Speaker, the government took a deliberate decision to try and keep the inevitable disruptions across all our lives down to a minimum in the education sector by opening schools and education institutions as soon as it was made safe to do so. It was an expensive undertaking and not universally popular. But faced with the prospect of a whole generation of our children losing irreplaceable years of education and the real likelihood of many of them dropping out of school, however, forever, we took the brave decision to open the institutions. Even then, it is worth pointing out that the school year has not yet fully returned to the predictable pre-COVID calendar. After the event, some might be tempted to forget the volumes of sanitizer and other logistics it took to keep the schools open and safe. In much the same way as some might now choose to forget the vitriol that came from some who should have known better, threatening hell and damnation when, according to them, the children start dying in the schools. Mercifully, we did not lose a single child to COVID in school. I would like to suggest that with the best will in the world, Mr. Speaker, no auditor can put a figure on the cost of keeping the children in school safely during that crisis, nor the continuing cost of the effect of the pandemic on our young children. Not the financial cost, not the emotional cost, and certainly not the social cost. But we must thank the Almighty that we have survived to repair the damage and begin to rebuild our economy. Beyond the use of COVID funds, there are legitimate questions being asked about how the country's debt situation got to where it is. Mr. Speaker, let me state emphatically that we have not been reckless in borrowing and in spending.
Honorable members, it's not yet your time to say, wait until that time arrives. Please, honorable members, I will allow spontaneous reaction to statements, but I will not allow debate of the statement. Your Excellency, you may proceed.
It is worth noting that the debts we're serving were not only contracted during the period of this administration. Mr. Speaker, we have spent money on things that are urgent, to build roads and bridges and schools, to train our young people and equip them to face a competitive world. Considering the amount of work that still needs to be done on the state of our roads, the bridges that have to be built, considering the number of classrooms that need to be built, the furniture and equipment needs at all stages of education, considering the number of children who should be in school and are not, considering the number of towns and villages that still do not have access to potable water, I dare say no one can suggest we have overborrowed or spent recklessly. Yes, I've been in a hurry to get things done, and this includes massive developments in agriculture, education, health, irrigation, roads, rails, ports, airports, sea defense, digitization, social protection programs, industrialization, and tourism. We can be justifiably proud of the many things that we have managed to do in the past 6 years. As I go around the country, I hear the pleas for more roads, schools, hospitals, and as the rainy season comes, I wish, as every other Ghanaian does, that would have built more drains than we have. And I wish we have the resources to do more. But Mr. Speaker, I'm proud of the amount of work that we have done, especially in the road sector. Roads constitute the largest number of questions asked in this House by members of Parliament. A large amount of the monies we borrow Alpha Road construction. Shall we dare stop constructing roads? Mr. Speaker, I would like to state categorically that this government has built more roads than any government in the history of the Fourth Republic. And Mr. Speaker, the details of all these roads are attached in the annex. I have done so because last year when I made a similar pronouncement, I was met with howls and gasps of incredulity from the minority benches. And so I thought it appropriate this time, a statement which will be part of Hansard. Beyond the construction of roads, Mr. Speaker, this NPP administration has implemented successfully a national identification system with the Ghana card, constructed more railways than any government in the Fourth Republic, established the Zongo Development Fund to address the needs of Zongo and inner city communities. And under their auspices, we have conducted more infrastructure in the Zongo communities than any other government in the Fourth Republic. Constructed more NCA licensed fiber optic cable than any other government in the Fourth Republic. 90%, 93% of the total. Increase the proportion of the population with access to toilet facilities from 33% to 59%. Increase the number of public libraries from 61 from independence until 2017 to 115 in 2022. Providing more equipment, vehicles, ammunition, etc. to security services than any other government in the Fourth Republic. We have successfully implemented the digital address system, improved significantly the financing of governance and anti-corruption institutions like the Ministry of Justice and Office of the Attorney General, the National Commission for Civic Education, SWAG, EYOCO, and the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Implemented the One District, One Factory initiative. In 4 years, 106 companies are in operation under 1D, 1F. 148 factories are under construction. This is the largest expansion of that sector since independence. Constructed more fish landing sites than any other government in the Fourth Republic. Established Africa's first national-scale electronic pharmacy platform. Provided free Wi-Fi to 700 senior high schools, 46 colleges of education, 260 district education offices, an initial successful pilot of 13 public universities. Introduced drones in the delivery of critical medicine, vaccines, and blood to people in remote parts of the country. And today, Ghana has the largest medical drone delivery service in the world, with zipline distribution centers in Ominako, Mpanya, Vobsi, Sefiwioso, Ketekrachi, and Enum, and overseen an improvement in revenue collection with the introduction of an EVAT and e-invoicing system. For example, figures from 19 tax-paying companies onboarded onto the EVAT system reveal total recorded monthly sales increasing from 222 million CDs in November 2021 to 720 million CDs in November 2022. Again, in December 2021, total monthly sales of 284 million CDs also saw a huge increase to 1 billion CDs in December 2022. Indeed, the evidence of how state funds have been used to improve our society is all over the country. No district or constituency has been left out. And I believe there are many Ghanaians who will vehemently disagree when some say there's nothing to show for all the funds that have been at my government's disposal. Mr. Speaker, I would like at this stage to brief the House on how the talks with the International Monetary Fund have been going since the announcement on 1st July 2022 of our intention to engage the IMF for a funded program. Mr. Speaker, having reached a staff-level agreement on 12 December 2022, after 5 months of intense negotiations and completion of most of the prior actions required under the agreement, we are on course for the IMF staff to present to the IMF Executive Board Ghana's program request for a $3 billion extended credit facility by the end of this month. Mr. Speaker, the 3-year IMF program, anchored on government's post-COVID-19 program for economic growth, aims at restoring macroeconomic stability and debt sustainability whilst protecting the vulnerable. It is a strong reform program which relies on front-loaded fiscal measures to increase domestic resource mobilization and streamline public expenditures to support inclusive growth and enhance social protection. Mr. Speaker, I thank the House for its support throughout this process, including the passage of key revenue laws. However, a few more of these measures, namely the Income Tax Amendment Bill, the Excise Duty and Excise Tax Stamp Amendment Bills, as well as the Growth and Sustainability Levy Bill, are outstanding, which need the urgent attention of the House and passage to complete the prior actions. This will put us in readiness for our presentation to the Fund Board, and more importantly, bolster our domestic revenue mobilization efforts. Mr. Speaker, it is clear that given the extent of the fiscal and debt sustainability issue we are addressing, fiscal adjustments and structural reforms are not sufficient for restoration of debt sustainability. A critical component of the measures we are implementing to address the current economic crisis is the debt operation, involving both domestic debt and external debt. The debt operation is aimed at returning the country to debt sustainable path by 2028 by reducing the debt to GDP ratio on a general classification basis and in present value terms from 103% in 2022 to 55% by 2028, and reducing the external debt service to revenue ratio from 29% in 2022 to 18% by 2028. Mr. Speaker, in order to achieve these goals, the decision was taken to execute a domestic debt exchange program, in addition to fiscal adjustment, external debt operation, and structural reforms. The participation rate of 85%, representing tendered bonds of 83 billion cedis out of the total eligible bonds of 97.7 billion cedis, constitutes significant success for the DDE program. The 83 billion cedis bonds that were successfully tendered also represent 64% of the outstanding domestic debt of 130 billion cedis at the end of December 2022, as pension funds have been expressly exempted from the DEP. I want to take this opportunity to thank organized labor, pensioners, pension fund managers, the Ghana Association of Banks, the Ghana Securities Industry Association, the Ghana Insurance Association, the Individual Bondholders and Retirees Forum, and all others who have contributed to make the domestic debt exchange program a success. Mr. Speaker, I know it has been said over and over again in the past weeks, but the voluntary nature of the DDE program bears repeating, as is the fact that the government is committed to honoring all coupon payments and maturities in respect of both old bonds and the new bonds, in line with government fiscal commitments. Mr. Speaker, we're also making progress on the external debt negotiations since the government announced an external debt service suspension on 19 December 2022 for certain categories of external debt to ensure an orderly restructuring. This suspension is an interim emergency measure toward a comprehensive external debt operation which will contribute to the restoration of our debt sustainability in line with our request for debt treatment under the G20 Common Framework. I want to express our appreciation to members of the Paris Club and to the People's Republic of China for the cooperation they have so far exhibited to us in attempting to reach an agreement and in their attempt to establish an official credit committee. We look forward to their fast-tracking the needed financing assurances for IMF approval. We are confident that with their cooperation, we will reach our March deadline for going to the fund. Mr. Speaker, we remain resolute in our vision to restore macroeconomic stability and promote inclusive growth. Mr. Speaker, government recognizes that sustained growth must be deliberate, especially in a global landscape marked by forces of technology, trade, and intense competition. It requires a combination of leadership, social cohesion, and deep investments in core capabilities of people, firms, and institutions to harness our opportunities. That is why, together with our private sector counterparts, we're anchoring Ghana's medium-term growth drivers on competitiveness, integration, adaptation, and digital innovation, all aimed at raising per capita GDP from the current $2,500 to $4,500, aligning with the Ghana Beyond Aid, which are already bearing fruit. These policies are aimed at achieving two results that are critical to the health of our economy. Firstly, they will help us preserve foreign exchange, especially the US dollar. And secondly, they will enable us to stabilize the price of oil products, such as petrol and diesel, on the domestic market. We have already seen some success on both fronts, with the price of US dollars and petroleum products falling since we announced the policy and began to implement it. The average price of which is a reduction of almost 10 cedis a litre. We expect this trend of falling fuel prices to reflect going up and down, going up and coming down, become a regular feature of our retail economy, as being demonstrated in the fuel prices. Because as we all know, prices, especially the external expenditure on security at our borders. But we do not have a choice of our nation. And the foundation for all development is the threats of terrorism and violent extremism, to protecting our borders and working in collaboration with our neighbors to keep our country and the region safe. Mr. Speaker, I'm able to cite here some of the equipment we have provided the military to help them protect us all. Allow me to list a few. The Army has received 104 armored personnel carriers, 70 utility troop carrying vehicles, 20 armored vehicles, 85 assorted Toyota vehicles, 50 Kai buses, 40 Jeep Jade vehicles, some explosive ordnance disband aerial vehicle systems. To the police service. We can now see more of the police on our streets in the urban areas, ever so gradually, driving on traffic lights. Things are improving. 504 housing units comprising 72 one-bedroom and 432 self-contained units have been completed for the police service. Recently, I delivered 100 pickups, 600 motorbicycles, and 6 armored personnel carriers to the police service to boost operational capacity. For the first time in our nation's history, the police service has dedicated helicopters to help with its operations. Mr. Speaker, I must share some good news with the House. I am particularly proud of the dramatic intervention government has made to tackle the long-lasting and utterly disgraceful problem of dilapidated and inadequate number of courts in our country. Many of the courts have not been fit for purpose and do not provide suitable facilities for the efficient administration of justice. The inadequacy means that people have to travel long distances to gain access. Construction of 120 courthouses in a half. Mr. Speaker, I had the President's duty on 17th October 2022 to commission a new modern Court of Appeal complex in Kumasi, together with 20 townhouses and a guest house to serve as permanent residences for Court of Appeal judges based in Kumasi, who are mandated to handle appeals from the northern part of the country. The Asantehene Otumfuo Setutu II, who generously gave the land, was present at the ceremony. It is a truly magnificent sight, and I recommend it to honorable members who go to Kumasi to pay a visit and see it for themselves. In addition, 210 vehicles were earlier in 2022 distributed to all judges in the Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, Higher Court, and lower courts. Mr. Speaker, it is a well-known fact that in this administration, TVET and STEM feature frequently in all conversations about education. Technical and vocational education are being given the place of honor they deserve. Since the realignment and introduction of free TVET, enrollment in TVET schools has increased from 13,000 in 2021 to 47,000 today. And all the indications are that this is a trend that will continue. In 2022, the TVET service recruited 3,400 staff, the highest in the history of TVET in Ghana, to accommodate this development. I was told last week about one young person who was placed in Achimota School in the current school placement exercise and has turned it down to go to a STEM school. I think we are making progress. The strides we're making in education are already changing lives and changing the narrative. As of this year, nearly 2 million young people have benefited from the free SHS policy. Predictions that the policy would lead to a lowering of standards proved wide, very wide of the mark. On the contrary, the results under the free SHS have shown a systematic improvement, and as a result, 2 million young people have either found a way to further education, training, apprenticeships, or employment because of the free SHS policy. I'm proud of the additional educational infrastructure, especially the provision of ultra-modern classroom blocks for several schools, which are equipped with laboratories, ICT centers, and libraries. The establishment of 10 STEM centers across the country, including one in Accra, to aid the study of engineering and robotics. Construction has also started at the University of Agricultural Science in Bunsu in the Eastern region. Mr. Speaker, apart from the enhancement of revenue and the judicious use of resources, we are all agreed that we need to do something about our huge import bill. Last year, I set up a 5-member ad hoc cabinet committee to work on a policy to enhance domestic production and export development with a fourfold strategy. 1, reduce the country's import bill in the short, medium, and long term. Enhance domestic productive capacity in selected products. Generate widespread employment opportunities. And 4, diversify and expand our export capacity to Africa and beyond, especially through the vehicle of the African Continental Free Trade Area. In 2021, Ghana's total import bill was put at $13.7 billion United States dollars, according to GRA icons. On the evidence in the categories of primary agricultural products, processed foods and manufactured fish, poultry, fruit juice, sugar, tomatoes, vegetable oils, oil palm, fertilizers, pharmaceuticals, soaps and detergents, insulated wire, ceramic products, corrugated paper and paperboard, cement and clinker, and motor vehicles. The report on the implementation modalities to enhance domestic productive capacity in these products has been prepared. And once confirmed with your approval, the new Minister for Trade and Industry will roll out urgently a series of initiatives to implement the youth and women, the Youth Start program. This program seeks to support young entrepreneurs to gain access to capital market training and technical skills, compliance and quality assurance support. And our program was successfully piloted in 2022, with 70 youth-led businesses benefiting from the initial 1.98 million CDs. Subsequently, a total of 288,800 applications have been received and are being processed by the Ghana Enterprise Agency for full operation. Mr. Speaker, government-private partnership arrangements as a financing alternative to the delivery of critical public infrastructure, such as the Accra-Tema motorway extensions, Accra-Takoradi motorway, and the Sogankope-Lomé transboundary water supply projects. In addition, Mr. Speaker, the $750 million United States dollar Afro-Exim Bank facility, which has been secured, will make long-awaited four-tier. Mr. Speaker, for digital environment. Our need for technological reinforcement within all our structures and praised by the improvements being made in the National Health Insurance Scheme to make access easier. The scheme is currently one of the better digitalized institutions, and I hope they get the public support that they need. I note in particular with satisfaction that they have developed a self-enrollment mobile application, My NHIS app, that allows government, and this application enables registration and renewal for oneself and others by linking NHIS cards to Ghana cards, CDs to health service providers. Mr. Speaker, our drone delivery service is firmly established. In Ghana now has 6 centers with Zipline units of life-saving medicals, vaccines, and blood products to health facilities in Ghana by the end of 2020. Childhood vaccines in the country has concerned me greatly. This shortage, if prolonged, will affect negatively Ghana's childhood immunization program, which has been recognized as one of the most successful in the world. The concentration on the fight against COVID-19. In accordance with our desire not to become part of this global trend, government has taken steps to ensure, as a matter of urgency and emergency, the Ghana Health Service has developed an elaborate program to catch up on children who have missed their vaccine immediately stocks arrive. Mr. Speaker, I want to encourage all parents and caregivers to ensure that eligible children are vaccinated once this program begins. No child should be denied access to vaccination. Mercifully so far, not a single child has died as a result of the outbreak. This House has already passed into law the National Vaccine Institute Bill, which is yet to be brought for my assent. In the near future, this institute will ensure that no matter what happens to the global vaccine supply chain, we can produce our own vaccines locally. Mr. Speaker, government continues to prioritize agriculture as one of the driving forces for economic transformation. The experiences and lessons from the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine conflict justify sufficiently our increased investment in the agricultural sector. Indeed, the sector recorded significant successes with an average growth rate of 6.28% from 2017 to 2021. This consistent growth over the period has translated into improved food security, job opportunities along agricultural value chains, and availability of raw materials for industry. To address the vexed issue of post-harvest losses, we have constructed some 65 warehouses, with the remaining 15 at advanced stages of completion. This intervention is adding some 80,000 metric tons to national grain storage capacity. $29.9 million United States dollars worth of machinery and equipment have been procured from Brazil to boost mechanization. Government will this year commence preparatory works for establishing a tractor and backhoe loader assembly plant in the Ashanti region, and continue capacity building of operators to ensure effective management and prolong the lifespan of agricultural machinery. Mr. Speaker, the impact of climate change and variability on global agricultural activities is a call to all of us, and indeed all countries, to adopt appropriate technologies and other innovative practices for sustainable agriculture and resilience against food insecurity. Government's response Among others, has been to continue to invest in irrigation infrastructure, both large and small scale, across the country. In 2022, government completed the rehabilitation and modernization of large-scale irrigation schemes at Tono, Bong, and Bong Left Bank projects. The three schemes are expected to provide 6,760 hectares of irrigable land for all year-round crop production. Phases 1 and 2 of the Tamni irrigation project have also been completed, with phase 3 of the project at 57% completion. Mr. Speaker, we are now at the most difficult stage of electricity provision around the country. The parts that are left are the very difficult to access area. The national electricity access rate increased from 79.3% in 2016 to 88.54% in 2022, making us amongst the top 6 in Africa, and we're still expecting to achieve the 90% universal electricity rate by 2024. To reduce transmission system losses and voltage fluctuations and to improve the overall quality of power supply, old lines are being replaced on the western, eastern, coastal, and middle corridors. It is worth noting that 3 new substations have been commissioned between 2021 and 2022, thereby improving reliability and efficiency. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to inform the House that the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, has since the last quarter of 2022 embarked on an aggressive digital transformation program. In the first phase of this program, set to be completed by end of April 2023, the focus is on creating a cashless and efficient payment system. I'm pleased to announce that on 1st March 2023, all ECG district offices became cashless. This is a major achievement by all standards. Since the start of this transformational program, we have so far seen a 25% increase in the monthly revenues. The second phase of the program will see the digitization of postpaid bills and the digital tagging of all meters. In our estimation, these initiatives should increase the monthly revenues of ECG by some 40% before the end of this year. I firmly believe that the initiatives which have been so boldly rolled out by ECG will make revenue leakage a thing of the past and address consumer pain points in their interactions with ECG. Mr. Speaker, we continue the fight against galamsey with the support of the security agencies in the short term. However, we are determined to promote responsible small-scale mining through community mining schemes. So far, 16 of these schemes have been commissioned, with 3 more to be commissioned by the end of this year. All these schemes are supported with gold catchers, pieces of equipment designed to help small-scale miners to extract gold from the ore without the use of mercury. In 2021, I launched the National Alternative Employment and Livelihood Program. The program employs several youth in the production of seedlings and reclamation of degraded mine lands. Currently, reclamation is going over 1,000 hectares of degraded lands in Ashanti, Eastern, and Western North regions. Mr. Speaker, on the international front, I should state that having gained a seat as a non-permanent member of the Security Council for the years 2022 and 2023, Ghana, as one of 3 non-permanent African members, is working vigorously to push the African agenda, which includes the fight against terrorism. This is being made on the reform of the UN Security Council. Of President Joe Biden and the French president, the leader helped bring about this much needed reform. in the region to strengthen regional cooperation in the fight against the terrorist menace in West Africa. Hence our commitment to the diversification, job creation and growth is clearly paying off. The World Economic Forum report of 2021 Travel Index ranks Ghana as the #1 tourism destination in West Africa. The potential contribution of tourism and the arts to GDP is therefore one that we must nurture and emphasize. Both domestic and international tourism are rebounding significantly from the severely disruptive impact of COVID on the travel and tour industry. International arrivals nearly trebled last year from a low of 355,158 in 2020 to over 915,000. Domestic visits to tourist sites are also up by over 55.7% during the period. All these have been made possible by deliberate marketing initiatives and upgrades of tourist infrastructure by the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture and its agency, the Ghana Tourism Authority. The Beyond the Return initiative, which I launched in 2019 as a sequel to the Year of Return, has reignited excitement about Ghana as the hub and a mecca for the global Pan-African, a home every person of African descent must visit at least once in their lifetime. A few days ago, at a historic ceremony in Washington, D.C., we conferred Ghanaian citizenship on Mother Viola Fletcher and her brother, Uncle Red, 108 years and 102 years respectively, two of the only 3 living survivors of the Tulsa Massacre of 1921. In May this year, I'll be chairing a tourism stakeholder retreat on rethinking tourism for national development and job creation. I've tasked the ministry and its agency, the Ghana Tourism Authority, to work on the modalities to bring together all the stakeholders within the industry. Over the next couple of years, my government will deepen even further our efforts to make tourism a strong primary source of growth for the economy. Mr. Speaker, Monday was 6 March, our Independence Day, and this year we had the main celebrations in the Volta region. I made the decision to rotate the Independence Day anniversary celebration in order to enhance the cohesion and unity of our nation and to make it clear to all segments of our population that we are all part of the One Ghana project. I'm glad to inform the House that it was a happy and grand event set against the breathtakingly beautiful background of the Adaklu Mountains. Mr. Speaker, 60 years since our independence, Ghana has taken steady strides to become a more developed country. The Ghana of 1957 is not the Ghana of 2023. We've come a long way since the days of our 6 million population, with very few modern amenities for its people. Today's population of 32 million, with a growing stock of modern infrastructure, spanning drones to supply our medicine, to the Ghana card which identifies each of us as proudly Ghanaian. As President, I have championed the innovation of policies and the execution of projects that will help improve the quality of life of the Ghanaian people. And God willing, I'll continue on a path that brings the most benefit to the people of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, things may be dire today. Nonetheless, we must count our blessings. Our petrol stations have fuel and will be spared long winding queues to fuel our vehicles. Our markets and shops are by the grace of God well stocked, and we have not been faced with the prospect of the rationing of basic necessities such as fruits and vegetables. Our children's schooling has not been interrupted. We've continued to provide free SHS, free TVET, and paid teacher and nursing training allowances. Our electricity supply has been consistent, and we have been spared the hardship of doing so during such a trial